Haunting truths, the dark realities of childbirth in medieval times, still shocking today. In the dim light of a flickering candle, the cries of a mother echoed through the stone walls, carrying a weight of dread that hung heavily in the stale air. This was the scene in medieval homes, where childbirth was a terrifying gamble. Die within the confines of your own bedroom, unable to breathe, screaming for mercy as shadows danced relentlessly around you. A life measured in blood and sorrow, where hope was just another ghost in the dusty corners, silently mocking those who dared to dream of brighter tomorrows. Imagine the sharp scent of dried herbs hanging high on the walls, their pungency mingling with the iron tang of blood. Women clustered together, their eyes filled with anxiety, preparing for what could only be described as a trial. They spoke in hushed tones about mothers who had disappeared entirely, leaving behind only an echo, a memory of joy turned tragedy. Those who survived, their bodies a canvas of scars and stories, knew all too well the unending cycle, a child brought forth, only for another to be lost. The legends told of midwives armed with more than just care, they were the keepers of secrets too dark to tell, whispered among themselves. As the birthing process began, the air thickened, the heavy sound of agony and despair pierced through the fragile silence. Women fainted from the horror unfolding in front of them, others held their breath, squeezing the walls as if they could simultaneously contain the agony and the life bursting forth. And there was the dreaded specter of the puerperal fever, that unseen killer stalking new mothers like a wolf in the night. Fevered dreams of rest turned into nightmares as they lay unknowing of their fate, drifting into a world where nightmares became reality. The fevers claimed lives with a cruel kiss, leaving behind husbands cradling their newborns, still yearning for the warmth of a wife who never returned. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As shadows flickered again, tightening their grip around the room, there was a sudden hush. The room held its breath, as if it had forgotten how to exhale. A new cry broke free, achingly innocent, primal in its plea for life. Yet, the eyes of the women gathered began to fill with sorrow as they recognized the bittersweet truth. The mother's fevered grasp weakened, they stepped back, horrified. This joy felt stained, like a drop of ink in pure water, swirling dark in the light, but what of the secrets the midwives knew? As the candlelight flickered and dimmed, their knowing glances exchanged dark promises. Could there be more to these harrowing tales of childbirth than just birth and death? The audience leaned in, heartbeats synchronized, a shared urgency filling the space. What other truths lay hidden in the folds of time, waiting to be uncovered? What stories of the fallen mothers would emerge from the depths of history, shunned yet yearning for the light? The silence that followed felt thick enough to choke on. Women clutched each other's arms, eyes wide with fear, each heartbeat echoing like a drumroll of doom. They exchanged glances laced with unspoken dread, realizing that the birth they had just witnessed might not be the joyful occasion they had hoped for. In a corner, a midwife named Agnes stood still, her face pale but resolute. She had seen too much in her years, too many mothers slip away, too many newborns left to the mercy of the world alone. This time was different, wasn't it? The tension radiating from the room felt like a storm on the verge of breaking. Agnes had always believed in the old ways, the remedies handed down through generations, but there was a shadow at the edge of her vision, a gnawing uncertainty. An unsettling chant twisted through her mind, the words of an ancient folk tale that warned of spirits drawn to the childbirth bed. She could hear the whispers, every birth brings a presence, not all of them are welcome. Her heart raced. Had they welcomed something sinister this time? As the night deepened, the air shifted, growing cold and unforgiving. The little baby lay cradled in its mother's weak arms, a fragile creature of innocence, blissfully unaware of the impending doom lurking just out of sight. Agnes took a step closer. The wrinkled skin of the baby, a testimony of life, clashed against the dull pallor of its mother's face. Would the child perish too? The thought made her stomach turn. Somewhere a clock chimed, slicing through the stillness like a knife. In an instant, the murmur of hopes began to crumble. The intensity of the fever washed over the mother again, a hot wave that wrapped around her like a vice. The midwives sprang into action, staving off panic, but Agnes felt an unsettling silence settle deeper. They could treat the fever, but could they halt the dark force that now lurked in the background? "Fetch the elder!" shouted one of the women, her voice trembling. "We need the blessing. We need protection." A wave of unrest rippled through the room. What could this elder do? The stories told of blessings, but they also spoke of curses. And once those forces were unleashed, there was no sealing them back. As Agnes knelt by the mother's side, she noticed something bizarre, something that thrust dread even deeper into her bones. In the candlelight, the mother's shadow twisted on the wall behind her, its shape morphing, stretching in unnatural ways. Agnes's breath caught. Shadows didn't move like that. Shadows were mirrors of flesh, not beings of their own. Behind her, a whisper echoed through the cramped space. "Help us please." It was a child's voice, tiny and pleading, cracking like a shell. But where was it coming from? The child in the bed was not speaking. A different child, lost in the folds of time, unseen but oh so present. Agnes. The urgency of her name sliced through the tension. She turned to find a midwife staring at the bedroom door, no longer able to hide the fear etched on her face. "What is it?" Agnes demanded as icy dread coiled tighter in her stomach. "The elder, she hasn't arrived. But there's someone at the door." Every woman's heart stilled. Who could possibly come at this hour, with such heavy shadows looming? And how would they liberate their mother from the grip of the suffocating darkness that threatened to consume them all? "What choice do we have?" Agnes whispered to herself as she approached the door. With each step, a deep foreboding pressed on her chest. Would they find help, or would the answers lead them deeper into the abyss, where secrets lay entangled with the very fabric of life and death? She hesitated, hand poised on the door, breathless. The shadows shifted behind her once more, urging her on. But could they break the curse that held the breath of their surroundings hostage, or was this the moment they unknowingly unleashed something far worse? Agnes drew a deep breath and pushed open the door, heart thumping like a drum in her chest. The night swirled outside, a heavy fog creeping through the cracks, taking on a life of its own. Standing before her was a man draped in a tattered cloak, his face obscured by the darkness. The flickering candlelight barely illuminated his hollow cheeks and sunken eyes. "What do you want?" Agnes demanded, the bravado in her voice barely concealing her fear. "Help," he rasped, voice low and hoarse. "There's no time." Fingers trembling, Agnes motioned for the man to step inside. The air felt thicker as he entered, shadows wrapping around him like lingering spirits. His eyes darted nervously as he scanned the room, landing on the crumpled figure of the mother. "Stay away from her," one of the midwives warned, stepping forward, but Agnes raised a hand, her instincts warring with her caution. "What do you know?" Agnes asked, desperation bleeding through the words. The stranger hesitated, glancing back at the door before speaking. "I know of the presence." He took a step closer, voice barely above a whisper. "It's not just in her, it's been here before." A collective gasp swept through the room, a chill wrapping around their hearts. "What do you mean?" Agnes pushed, leaning in as if to catch every trembling word. "The stories, they travel back generations," he confessed. "The birth, the curse, it was seated here with anguish. Innocence calls to dark things. They linger, waiting for the right moment to be reborn." "Stop!" the midwife shouted, eyes alight with fear. "We are in enough peril without your tales of ghosts." "Silence!" Agnes snapped, her patience fraying. The urgency of the moment outweighed the need for disbelief. "Tell me how we can save her." "The elder is no ordinary woman," he said, stepping further into the shadows. She walks the line between worlds. If you don't act fast, the child will be pulled into that darkness. Faces twisted in confusion, shock rippling through the crowd. What must we do? Agnes swallowed hard. Find the light, he replied. Before dawn breaks, the child must be anchored. He straightened, eyes gleaming with urgency. You have to make a choice: bring forth the light or let the shadow awaken. People murmured, hearts pounding with fear and disbelief. And if we don't? Agnes asked, the gravity of his words weighing heavily in the air. Then all will be lost, he said simply. Not just the mother's life, but others who've borne the curse. Just then, a scream rang out from the fevered mother, pulling every gaze back to her. Her eyes flew open wide and unseeing, as if she were not truly present. In that moment, the room plunged deeper into chaos. The flickering flames of the candles dimmed, shadows stretching long and consuming the corners. Agnes, a midwife, cried. The child. Before she could respond, the man rushed forward. I can help. He shouted, reaching for the mother. But Agnes stepped in between, a protective instinct roaring to life. No. We can do this ourselves. She shouted back, her voice echoing through the suffocating tension. Silence fell in the room, heavy and expectant. Agnes felt the weight of the decision crash down upon her. Gather the women, conjure ancient chants, or embrace the unknown with this stranger. Time was slipping like sand, and darkness loomed overhead. Agnes, the whispering voice returned, weaving its way into her thoughts. It was the echoes of lost children, calling for salvation or vengeance. Just then, the mother convulsed, shaking violently, and Agnes's heart raced. The shadows twisted behind her once more, hunger flickering in the depths, and she knew that whatever they chose next could either shatter the darkness or bring forth something far worse. Agnes took a breath, facing the flickering uncertainty. What will it be? She whispered, as their fate twisted in the night. At that moment, a sudden shift in the atmosphere shattered everything. The door slammed shut, locks clicked, and the shadows swelled, eagerly leaning in closer. What had they unleashed? Would they stand strong against the darkness, or would the light extinguish in the face of despair? Had they inadvertently crossed a line that could never be uncrossed? Agnes's heart dropped as the heavy door slammed shut, echoing through the dimly lit room. Instinctively, she fought the urge to bolt for the entrance. The room felt suffocating, the air thick with the scent of sweat and despair. The walls, once comforting, now felt like they were closing in. Stay calm. She shouted, trying to rally the midwives and the few remaining villagers. Her voice wavered, but the stakes felt too high to falter. We need to focus. Focus? One of the midwives scoffed, her face pale as shock etched across her features. The door locked itself. The shadows are here for a reason. Don't say that. Agnes shot back, shaking with frustration. She was struggling to keep control, but every flicker of candlelight seemed to mock her efforts. We can't let fear take us. The cloaked man stood still, his eyes darting from Agnes to the shivering mother, who lay helpless as the twisted shadows grew bolder, inching closer, reaching as if to snare her very essence. You have a choice, he murmured, his voice hauntingly calm in the chaos. What are you suggesting? Agnes snapped, her patience fraying. Confront the presence, he said, his hollow eyes never leaving hers. But you must know it may lead you to the truth that will cost you everything. What truth? She pressed, desperation twisting her insides. The mother's breathing was shallow, and a dreadful sense of urgency hung in the air like a noxious fog. The truth of the curse, the truth of what happened here. He hesitated, glancing at the wall, where deeper darkness seemed to writhe. This place has suffered before, and it remembers. What do you mean? What happened here? Agnes could feel her composure slipping. She needed answers, something to anchor her anxiety, or the shadows would claim them. There was a time he breathed heavily, as if forcing the words out. A child was born here under the same dark omen, her cries fractured the night, and in that moment, darkness took root in this land. The bloodlines entwined through pain, through betrayal. What was birthed in violence has tethered itself to this home. Fingers tightening into fists, Agnes felt the flicker of determination swell within her. Then we fight. We gather the light. Light is fragile and fleeting. What happens when all hope fades? He countered, his voice chilling her resolve. The midwives gathered, their eyes glazed, confusion swirling like shadows around them. We can't turn back now, one whispered, but another was shaking her head, backing away from the mother. It's too dangerous. She cried, fear spilling from her lips. Suddenly, a scream erupted from the mother, sharper than any blade. Agnes's composure shattered. No. Don't let her go. She plunged toward the bed, her heart drumming wildly in her chest. Hands trembling, she grasped the mother's shoulder, feeling a warmth beneath it, a flicker of life desperately fighting to break free. But as Agnes held on, tendrils of darkness curled around her fingers, writhing as they sought to pull her away. Stop. Let her be. Agnes shouted even as she felt herself slipping, the shadows dragging her deeper into their grasp. The man lunged forward, but she couldn't tell if he intended to help or was merely there to serve his hidden agenda. Agnes! He cried, reaching for her too, with a roar of defiance. Agnes pulled against the shadow's grip. No! The room erupted into chaos, screams echoed as the very walls trembled. The shadows writhed, forming grotesque shapes, pulling at the corners of her sanity. Suddenly, something shifted. A soft glow ignited in the mother's chest, fighting against the darkness. Agnes gasped, recognizing the light as their salvation. Do you see it? The man shouted over the cacophony. You are the light. Now you must guide it. Agnes clenched her teeth, heart racing. Could it really be true? Could she be the one to channel the light and break the curse? But the shadows roared back, as if sensing her resolve. Gather your strength. The man urged, desperation flooding his voice. Before it consumes you. With a final cry, Agnes stepped forward, willing to confront the darkness that had held its grip on her family for generations. Would it be enough to save the mother, the child, and perhaps herself? And then, right when all hope seemed lost, a deafening crack rang out, shaking the very foundation of the room. Would the truth release them or seal their fate? Agnes's breath hitched. What awaited them on the other side of that noise? The crack echoed like a gunshot, reverberating through Agnes's bones. Her heart raced, pounding against her ribcage like a desperate prisoner. The breath of the room seemed to stall, the shadows momentarily frozen in place as if they too were trembling with anticipation. Agnes! The cloaked man shouted again, his voice barely breaking the suffocating silence. Focus! The light! Do not lose it! Agnes closed her eyes and pulled from the fragile flicker inside the mother. It was a glimmer of hope, illuminating the crushing darkness. She felt it pulse, a beat resonating in sync with her own frantic heartbeat. Was she really meant to guide this light? Could she truly be its bearer against such overwhelming gloom? But the shadows were quick to seize on her fear. They surged forward, swarming like a tempest, coiling around her limbs. No! You will not take her! Agnes cried. With every ounce of willpower, she reached deeper into the glow, feeling its warmth seep into her very soul. The midwives stood around, blinking like deer caught in headlights, fear paralyzing them. Help me! Agnes's voice cracked, desperation painting each word. Suddenly, a hand shot forward. It was one of the midwives, the oldest, with wisps of gray threading through her hair. Agnes! She cried out, shaking. What can we do? Join me. There was power in her voice now, a light breaking through the mist of fear. Channel the light. One by one, the midwives stepped forward, hands shaking as they placed them on the mother's quivering body. Agnes felt a surge of energy, a wave of warmth that pulsed through their collective efforts. The room shifted, the shadows recoiling, hissing like a pack of feral animals repelled by light. But just as victory felt within grasp, the hollow voice of the cloaked figure cut through the tension, sharp and chilling. It won't be enough. The shadows grow stronger with your hope. Agnes's resolve faltered. A cold, creeping dread threatened to entomb her heart. What do we do then? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper, the panic rising anew. It's time to confront your past, the cloaked man said, eyes boring into hers. Face the source of this darkness. Only then can you truly break the curse. Agnes's throat tightened as memories began to crowd in, snaking their way through her mind like smoke. Her family's haunting history, the whispers she dismissed, the tales told in hushed tones around flickering fires. A child born in blood, in betrayal. Was that what he wanted her to confront? Confront what? She breathed, panic flooding her system. Are you suggesting I face my ancestors? The pain? The loss? Yes. His voice was a rasping wind. Embrace it. Only by acknowledging the truth can you untangle the lies that have strangled this home for generations. The shadows stiffened, sagging back as if they felt the power of her thoughts shifting. Deep breaths, Agnes told herself. She was terrified of what the truth might hold, but she couldn't back down now. Not after everything. As she opened her eyes, determination ignited within her. I will confront it. She declared, lifting her chin defiantly. Together, we can end this. But just as the shadows shifted again, a new sound sliced through the air, another crack, but this time, it came from behind them. Agnes turned slowly, her stomach nodding. The door they had entered through was splintering, a heavy force pushing against it from the outside. Agnes! The cloaked man growled, urgency creeping into his tone. It's too late. They're coming. Just then, the air shifted, saturated with a low growl, the kind that chilled the very marrow of her bones. Whatever awaited them on the other side was not simply a force of shadow. It was something far more sinister and alive. Heart racing, Agnes faced the midwives, her voice steady. We stand together. No matter what comes. But could they truly hold against what was about to breach their fragile sanctuary? Could they withstand whatever horror was determined to slip past the quaking door, and then, with a final, resounding crack, the door splintered apart, revealing more than just a physical threat. An embrace of darkness loomed, threatening to engulf them whole. What emerged from that storm of shadows? Would it embrace the horrific truth or drag them back into a nightmare that had begun long before? The air was thick with dread, a tangible weight pressing down on Agnes's chest as the shattered door fell inward, revealing an abyss of swirling shadows. The growl echoed, vibrating through the floor like a warning tremor. What is that? One of the midwives whispered, backing away, her eyes wide with terror. The cloaked man moved to protect the group, his form tense, a wall of defiance against the darkness. Agnes forced herself to look past the gaping doorway. The shadows poured in, coalescing into forms that twisted and slithered. Visceral shapes materialized, grotesque reminders of the fears that had haunted her family for generations. Eyes glimmered like embers in the dark, their stares piercing straight into her soul. Hold on to the light. She shouted, gritting her teeth. Channel your hope. Together. The midwives hesitated, fear etched on their faces, but she saw the resolve flickering. One by one, they stepped closer as their hands clasped around Agnes's. The warmth of their humanity surged through her like a bolt of electricity. The shadows screeched, shrieking in fury as the light began to swell in the room. It shimmered and sparkled, dancing with the energy of their combined wills. They formed a protective barrier, pushing against the dark, but the shapes took on a more tangible form, faces twisted in pain and anger, remnants of those long gone. What do you want? Agnes demanded, her voice cracking. Show yourself. With that declaration, a figure emerged from the depths, looming like a dark sentinel. It bore the unmistakable features of a woman with ashen skin, her eyes hollow. But her presence was suffused with a raw power, one that resonated with loss and despair. "Do you not recognize me, Agnes?" The figure spoke, voice gravelly yet woven with a lament that struck deep within Agnes's heart. "I am the echo of your bloodline. I am the truth you try to hide." "No." Agnes stepped back, a horror dawning on her. You're not real. You're just a shadow. Real enough to haunt you, child. Accept me." The figure reached forward, her fingers outstretched like a dark promise, and Agnes felt an icy grip enclose around her heart. "No. I reject you." Agnes shouted, fighting against the weight of history bearing down upon her. "I am not afraid. You do not own me." The cloaked man's voice suddenly flew through the chaos. "Agnes. Focus on the light. It is your birthright, your legacy. It can consume the shadows if you allow it." Drawing a deep breath, Agnes felt the warmth of hope flaring within her, igniting a fire bold enough to challenge the truths that had suffocated her family. With each pulse of light, she could see the shadows dimming against their collective blaze. "Together." Agnes cried again, locking eyes with each midwife, feeling their power interlace with hers. As their unity strengthened, so did the light. The dark figure faltered, her wretched form twisting like smoke in a breeze. Then, just as the shadows recoiled, a chilling laugh echoed, vibrating from the depths of the darkness. "You cannot escape the past, child. It will always find you. You've merely scratched the surface of what lies beneath." Without warning, the dark figure lunged, a rush of shadows, arm reaching for Agnes. "Now!" the cloaked man shouted. Agnes braced against the wave of dark despair, channeling every ounce of strength, but was it too late? Could they truly brave the history threatening to consume her, or was this only the beginning of a far more intricate terror? It surged forward, and in the chaos, she felt herself teetering on the edge of annihilation. What more lay buried beneath the surface? Would the shadows of her past drag her down, or could she finally reshape her fate? The moment hung in the air, thick with uncertainty. What was coming next would change everything forever. Agnes felt the darkness push against them, a relentless tide of fear and despair. The shadow's hand, cold and unyielding, reached for her, its presence electric, charged with malevolence. Panic sliced through her thoughts, but she was not alone. The midwives tightened their grip, their determination flickering like the flame they nurtured. "Channel it!" Agnes cried, forcing the light they had summoned to swirl brighter. "We are not your victims." The cloaked man stepped forward, his presence strong as the shadows whipped in agitation. "You must remember, Agnes. Your birthright is also your strength. Focus on the love, not the hate." Echoed one of the midwives, her voice steady despite the quaking ground beneath them. That mantra struck Agnes like a hammer. Love was her foundation. Her memories swelled with faces of her family, laughter from sun-filled days, the warmth of shared meals, the love that wove them together. With each cherished thought, the luminescent force in the room grew bolder, fierce ribbons of light snapping against the shadows. The dark figure hesitated, contorting in pain as the brightness seared its form. But that chilling laugh persisted, echoing through the turmoil like a ghostly thunder, threading through Agnes's resolve. "You don't understand. Love cannot save you from the truth." The shadowy figure hissed, and in a movement quick as a whisper, the shadows lunged toward Agnes, tendrils of darkness seeking to engulf her entirely. Suddenly, Agnes remembered. "It's not just about me," she shouted. "It's about all of us. Everyone who has suffered. Everyone who has faced this darkness. We stand together." In that moment, clarity hit like an iron bell, each ring a reminder of connection, of shared pain and shared hopes. Her light surged again, drawing strength from the hands that held hers, from the weavings of stories that had not yet been told. Emboldened, Agnes pushed forward, cascading the brilliance of light into the shadows as she pulled the midwives closer. The dark figure recoiled, its form unraveling against the onslaught. "You think I'm afraid of your unity? You only feed my power." "No." Agnes bellowed, her heart racing, each beat a drum echoing with the voices of the brave women before her. "Your reign ends here. We are defined by our courage, not by your darkness." In a flash, the world narrowed down to that single moment. Some midwives gasped, their fear morphing into fierce conviction. Others began chanting softly, their voices interlacing like a chorus of defiance. Each word was a spell pushing back against the suffocating shadows, but the figure screamed, an ear-splitting wail that rattled the very walls of the dwelling. "You will pay for this betrayal." And for a moment, Agnes faltered at the weight of those threats, but then she remembered the lives yet to be born, the dreams still residing in the world. "We will not be silenced." The shadows began to disintegrate, scattering like ashes in the wind. The figure laughed again, but her voice trembled with growing uncertainty. "You've made a mistake, there are more like me lurking." Agnes felt the terror twist in her stomach but pushed it down. "We'll fight them too." The edges of the room shimmered, the balance shifting. But just before the darkness fully dissipated, a figure emerged at the corner of Agnes's vision, more defined than the first, cloaked in a swirling fog. "Watch yourself, Agnes," the voice hissed from the shadows. "You've only begun to scratch the surface. The true horror lurks even closer." Panic gripped her heart again. Was this a grim omen, or the key to her salvation? The future unfurling before her brought no answers, only more questions, and the hunt was far from over. "Stay strong." The cloaked man called, urgency lacing his words. "Prepare for what comes next." Agnes took a deep breath, the sting of uncertainty in the air as they braced for the storm brewing just out of reach. What awaited them in the shadows beyond? And how would they confront the nightmares that waited to awaken? The room pulsed with an electric tension, the air thick with anticipation. Agnes stood at the center, a fragile flame amidst the encroaching shadows, and for a heartbeat, it felt like breath itself had stalled. The cloaked figure locked its eyes on her, glimmers of malice flickering within their depths. "Do you really think you can fight me?" The figure sneered, its voice a slithering whisper. "I am but a reflection of your worst fears, and there are many who share that fear." The midwives hesitated, glancing at one another, unsure if their courage could withstand the dark promise woven through the figure's words. Agnes noticed the falter, and her heart sank. They could not let doubt creep in. "No!" she shouted, channeling every ounce of love, each heartfelt memory pooling into a torrent of light. "We are not defined by what haunts us. We are defined by how we rise together." Their collective voices surged around her, and a beam of brilliant light erupted from their joined hands, illuminating the room in an ethereal glow. The shadows writhed, recoiling from the purity of their connection. But the cloaked figure shrieked, a sound filled with centuries of anger and despair. "I will return. You have only delayed the inevitable." It howled, and the room trembled under the weight of its words. The shadows coiled tightly before letting out a final shudder. In an instant, they disappeared, leaving only silence behind, but the victory felt hollow. Agnes's chest tightened. The laughter of earlier echoed in her mind, a cruel reminder of what lay ahead. "Did we truly win?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. The cloaked man stepped forward, dark eyes burning with intensity. "This is but a moment, Agnes. The true battle lies in understanding what you have just faced. This darkness feeds on fear, on isolation. You must unify those who are cast away." "But how?" she questioned, feeling the weight of the world settle on her shoulders. "There are so many, lost to despair." "You already have allies," he replied, gesturing towards the midwives, their faces set with determination. "But there are also others. Women across this land, mothers and daughters, all of them shackled by the same darkness you have felt." "But they're afraid," Agnes protested. "Fear is what binds them." You must give them hope, the cloaked man urged, urgency dancing in his tone. You've shown your strength today, but the wolves in the shadows will not rest. They will seek those who are vulnerable, and if you falter, the cycle will begin anew. A chill ran down Agnes's spine. The shadows may have retreated, but their menace lingered. What if I can't? What if I fail? The man stepped closer, his voice a fierce whisper. Failure is part of the journey, but you must promise to gather those who share your light. The next confrontation will require all who have faced this darkness. The shadows know you now. They will come for you. Agnes looked at the midwives, seeing the fire in their eyes. Then we need to gather them. Every woman who stands against this. Do it swiftly, he warned, his silhouette shimmering, threatening to fade in the dim glow. The shadows are restless. They sense your light, and they won't wait long to retaliate. You have a growing target on your back. As the figure vanished into the twilight, a sense of scrutiny settled in, tightening around Agnes like a noose. What if she couldn't rally those lost in the shadows? What if she couldn't stand against the darkness looming closer? Agnes, one of the midwives whispered, her voice breaking through the swirling thoughts. We need to decide our next move. We can't waste time. The weight of her uncertainty hung like a storm cloud, but deep down, a flicker of resolve ignited. We begin tonight. We'll stand together, and we'll not only fight, we'll teach them to fight back. With the midwives at her side, Agnes stepped into the chill of the night, the shadows still lurking beyond, but now they would march forth, ignited by courage, ready to claim victory once again. Yet, as they moved forward, the air grew thick with a new tension, a distant echo of claws scraping against stone hunting them, waiting for the next chance to strike. What awaited them just beyond the moonlight? And who would they trust in the face of renewed terror? The night wrapped around them like a heavy cloak, the fading echoes of their victory still vibrating in the cool air. Agnes felt the weight of that darkness looming as shadows flickered at the edges of her vision. She turned her gaze towards the midwives, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of the moon. What could they do in a world so riddled with despair? Would their resolve hold, or would the encroaching shadows swallow them whole? Agnes whispered Marin, the oldest of the midwives, her breath shaky. Where do we even begin? Agnes inhaled deeply. Her heart thundered in her chest. We find them. The lost ones. Those women terrified of the shadows, the ones who buried their hope deep down. Confusion crossed the midwives' faces. Their determination flickered slightly. But how do we reach them? Asked Elia, her voice small like a child's. They don't trust anyone. They're scared. Fear can bind us, but it can also spark a fire, Agnes replied. She recalled the cloaked figure's warning that strength was found in unity. We share our stories. We find a way to connect with them, to show them they aren't alone. A low growl punctured the night, sending shivers creeping up Agnes's spine. The wind, once merely a chill, now carried the unmistakable scent of an approaching storm. Out there they could be anywhere, whispered Marin, straining to listen. How will we protect them? Agnes squared her shoulders. We can't hide. We step out into the light, even if it's faint. We must hold on to the bond we share, let it guide us. A rustle sounded from a nearby thicket. The midwives tensed, shifting as one, eyes darting in fear. What was that? Elia breathed, her hands trembling. From the darkness, a woman emerged, her ragged clothes clinging to her gaunt frame. Fear flickered in her eyes, yet the desperation in her gaze pulled at Agnes's heart. I heard you, the woman stammered, grasping the fabric of her dress. I felt your light. They told me not to trust anyone, that they would come for me. Who? Agnes asked, stepping closer, her voice calm despite the pounding in her chest. Who is hunting you? The woman glanced over her shoulder, panic flaring. The shadows, they speak in whispers, they claim they own my fears. If they get me, they will take everything. Agnes exchanged a look with the midwives. Without pondering, she reached for the lost one. "You're not alone. We're here for you. Gather your sisters, the ones who suffer like you. We will stand together." The woman hesitated, her fear palpable, but then nodded slowly. "You're brave. I wish I could be, but what if they take you, too?" Marin interjected, fierce. "Then we stand together, no matter the threat. We face them." In that moment, the fear that clung heavily began to lift. The small group felt like a start, the flicker of a flame now sparking into life. Suddenly, the shadows shifted again, a rush of dark energy like ice sweeping through the air. Agonizing snarls echoed from behind the trees, and time seemed to stretch between heartbeats. "The wolves!" Elia cried out, movement agitated and frantic. "Run!" Agnes urged, grabbing the newcomer's hand. They fled together, adrenaline coursing as the darkness chased them through the winding paths. The cries of the shadows now felt like claws scraping against their back, threatening to pull them away from the light. As they sprinted, a violent roar rattled the stillness, a precursor to something far worse. Agnes could feel the energy of the shadows clawing at her resolve, twisting her insides. But with each stride, she could also feel hope blooming, and she held tightly to it, what lurked in the darkness. What true horrors awaited them if they faltered? Would they stand united in the face of it all, or would the wolves swallow them whole? With breath fast and heart racing, they pushed onward, daring to hope, even as the shadows lurked closer. The air crackled with tension as Agnes and the midwives dashed through the forest, hearts pounding against a relentless rhythm of dread. The shadows snarled, their voices a chorus of fear woven from long-buried secrets. "We have to plan." Marin yelled, her voice slicing through the chaos. "We can't just run." Agnes skidded to a halt, adrenaline rushing through her veins, pulling the others in close. "Agreed. We need to set traps. We know their tactics, we can outsmart them." The moon cast a pale light, illuminating their faces, resolute and determined. The newcomer trembled beside Agnes, overwhelmed with fear. "But how can we fight what we cannot see?" she whispered, her voice almost lost in the rustling leaves. Agnes reached out, holding her arm with steady resolve. "We've faced the darkness before. Together, we can summon the light, we will root them out." Suddenly, a freezing gust swept through the trees. The shadows nightmarishly pulsed, as if sensing their plan. "They are gathering," Agnes hissed, urgency flaring in her chest. "We need to work fast." Spurred by her own determination, Agnes began gathering twigs and branches, drawing deeper into the ancient woods. Each snap of wood beneath her fingers echoed with potential a willingness to fight back. The midwives joined her, forming a tight circle of unity. "Channel the light," she urged, setting her focus. "We need to remember our stories, our losses, to build our strength." One by one, the midwives shared their own fears, but intertwined with each tale was the light of their experiences, the bonds of sisterhood, the laughter that rose through the ashes of despair. Each sharing spun a thread of illumination, holding darkness at bay. Minutes passed like hours, the shadows clawing at the edges of their sanctuary. Suddenly, the forest erupted, snarls and howls echoed, chilling their blood. Shapes began to materialize, slinking through the treetops, a pack of wolves, each a fragment of their worst fears, each snarling threat embodied. "They've come for us." Elia gasped, her face pale. "No." Agnes shouted, muscles tensing, a fierce fire igniting within. "They come for our light. We want to let them take it." With a deep inhale, Agnes stepped forward, the glowing energy of their shared light thrumming through her like electricity. "Stand together, midwives. Focus." As the wolves lunged, Agnes opened her arms, channeling the warmth that blossomed in her chest, illuminating the shadows with pure intent. And just like that, a breath of hope caught fire, swelling with vigor. The shadows hissed, recoiling from the warmth. Agnes shouted, "We are the light. You cannot silence us." The energy within them pulsed louder, igniting the surroundings, brightening the darkening sky above. In that moment, the lead wolf froze, caught in a shimmering glow. Agnes concentrated her will, and the light enveloped the creature. Against her will, it twisted and howled, half-formed memories pulling at its essence. "You will pay, Agnes." It snarled in a voice too familiar, reflecting the pain from centuries past, the might of her bloodline's sorrow, but Agnes stood firm, refusing to buckle beneath the weight of history. "No more. You will not haunt us." The glow intensified, unraveling the very fabric of shadow bound within it. Together, they all held their ground, voices rising in unison. "You are not welcome. Leave us." The forest pulsed with energy, the incantations of forgotten lore igniting, pouring through every branch and leaf point one by one. The wolves turned and fled, pushed back into the abyss from which they came. Their desperate shrieks faded into heavy silence. Breathless, Agnes surveyed her companions, their faces glowing with the residual energy of the encounter. They had faced their fears, and together they stood triumphant over the encroaching darkness. But the victory felt like a lull before the storm. "This isn't over," Agnes murmured, her heart heavy with truth. "They'll be back. Then we'll be ready," Marin replied, strength still shining in her voice despite fatigue. "We find more women, we share our light. We form a beacon, drawing others away from the shadows." As the group gathered together, a flicker of hope ignited deep within. They would rebuild connections, gather the lost souls bound by darkness, and arm them with the power of unity. In doing so, they were forging a legacy, a movement of women standing tall, facing whatever demons lurked. Agnes lifted her head, feeling the gentle glow of dawn breaking at the edge of the horizon. "Together, we are unbreakable. We will end this cycle of despair." With resolve rising within them, they stepped forward, adjusting their path through the forest, leaving behind the remnants of fear, embracing the strength that had always dwelled within. They were not merely surviving, they were rising. As the golden light illuminated their way, Agnes turned to her sisters, heart thrumming with purpose. "There's so much more to do. Let us find the lost, let us be the light they need." And as they stepped deeper into the day, shadows receded behind them, knowing they were right to fear. The light had returned. This is not just a story. It's a journey that continues beyond the pages. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on the next exclusive story that dives deeper into these haunting truths. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, and flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. It all matters. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this tale unfolds. Together, let us spread the light.